Now, this is what I think is going on. A lot of people, right, especially people that like study the Middle Eastern affairs, they'll tell you that this has been probably the quickest amount of escalation that's occurred in such a short period of time between the pagers, the assassinations, etc. You know, a lot of developments in just the past year. The reason why I think Israel is pushing so hard for this is for two reasons. Number one, they want a strong response from one of the Axis powers, right? So that they can justify the United States getting involved in the conflict. And when I say a serious retaliation, I mean as in like them sending missiles into Tel Aviv and, you know, the mass loss of civilian life, right? Israel wants that, right? Because they want to go ahead and, you know, escalate and get a war going. Because Israel's looking at this, because what October 7th did, guys, was it's affording Israel the ability to wage a war against all of the powers that have not respected their existence. Does that make sense? So since 1948, since the beginning of Israel being created, these Arab nations have had issues with Israel existing. A lot of them will never formally recognize Israel as a sovereign state, right? They don't think it has a right to exist. They don't want them there, etc. So Israel has been fighting these countries for its existence for decades. So they're under constant pressure. What October 7th basically did was it allowed Benjamin Netanyahu to gather absolute power as prime minister, alleviate himself of being prosecuted for corruption, unite the country, unite the war cabinet, receive foreign aid, attack Gaza while simultaneously fighting a front in Lebanon. And now that Gaza's gone, he's going to go after all these other countries because his argument is, if we want this to never happen again, we can't just stop at Gaza. We have to eliminate everyone that supported Gaza through proxy. That includes Hezbollah in Lebanon. That includes the Houthis in Yemen. That includes the Iranians. So they want this war to get rid of these people, right, that have been not recognizing them. So I think Netanyahu understands that right now we don't have a president in office. Biden is effectively asleep at the wheel, and Kamala Harris is too busy campaigning to actually be vice president.
And they're laughing at us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Netanyahu understands that he has this window during the election cycle to do everything he wants to do. He's getting aid, not getting questioned about it too much because Biden's asleep at the wheel. Kamala's too busy dealing with fucking campaigning. So they're going to escalate as much as they can. Now, if Trump gets into office, what I predict he will do is he's going to end the war in Ukraine. That's going to free up some money. He's going to give said money to Netanyahu, but he's going to tell Netanyahu, you got 3 months. Get this shit done. And that's going to put a time crunch on Israel to, you know, do whatever they got to do, finish the job.
Yeah.
Right? So if Trump comes in, there's going to be a time clock. If Kamala comes in, she might withhold funds. The Biden administration has done this a few times where they'll withhold funds because the Democratic Party is more, how do I say this? They're more receptive to the Palestinians' plight, right? A lot of people that are Democrats and vote left, etc., understand what's going on in Gaza, and they're a bit more vocal on the mass loss of human life that's going on in Israel right now. So Kamala, you know, on one end, from a political standpoint, she has to support Israel because the donors are pro-Israel. But on the other hand, her constituents, the people that vote for her, etc., most of them are pro-Palestine. So you can see how she's also in a very difficult position, being a Democrat. The Republicans is not so much. You can be very pro-Israel without really too much of losing your voter base on the Republican side.
Especially meeting him behind the scenes, Netanyahu.
Exactly.
But not in the public eye.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas Trump will do a whole press conference with Netanyahu there because the right tends to be more Israel than the left is, right? Right now, especially with this conflict going on. So I think if Kamala comes in, yes, she will support Israel, but she's going to kind of give this half-ass support like Biden is doing now. We'll give you aid, but, it's on this pretense. You can't escalate this much. You can't do that, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, they can't reel Netanyahu in. And I've said this for months, and Trump confirmed it. I watched this interview with PBD. And in the interview, he said, which is good news, that he's not really for a regime change in Iran, which is what Israel wants, by the way. They want a regime change. So that's good. That means that if he sticks to his word, that means we won't have a war with Iran, because that's one of the biggest things I think is the issue, is that we don't want a war with Iran, right? Because us getting drawn into the conflict and getting in with Iran will embolden Russia and China to also enter the conflict. And despite what people want to tell you, we got the biggest and strongest army, etc. Yes, we do. We have a very capable military. But whenever you go abroad and you're going to them, they have an inherent advantage. The invading nation always has the odds stacked against them versus a defending nation, right? Then on top of that, we're fighting with two other countries that also have nuclear weapons, Russia and China, that are very capable as well.
Huge powers.
Huge powers.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not World War II anymore, guys. It's modern warfare now. So I think with Netanyahu, he understands that no matter who comes into office, he's going to have his wings clipped a little bit. Right? Kamala will probably withhold aid a little bit, and Trump will give him a timeline. So that is why I predict they're going so hard with escalating right fucking now, and why they're trying to attack Iran and Hezbollah and waging all these conflicts right now, because the Biden administration can't rein him in. And I don't think Kamala will be able to rein him in either, but she can withhold funding or delay it, which is a problem for them, because their Iron Dome system, guys, is extremely expensive to operate. Extremely expensive.
And maintain, yeah.
We're talking about millions of dollars to shoot down, damn near daily, to shoot down rockets.
Well,
give me one to the chat if you guys enjoyed that little summary there on my prediction on what the hell's going on. I know it's very long and nuanced, but it's a very complex situation going on there. I haven't even went into the historical ramifications. I'm just talking strictly on what's going on from a modern standpoint.
Yeah.
Give me ones if that makes sense for you guys. Give me twos if any confusing. Go ahead, bro.
No. That was a good breakdown. I mean, I'm not opposed to what you're saying at all. I think that is a good recap of what's happening right now. Yeah. But what I will say is
that's objectively what's going on.
Israel's going to be here till the end of time.
Because if for anybody that might question me and say, "Oh, what do you mean Israel wants a conflict?" Guys, you don't go and kill the top guy in your adversarial, your adversary's top guys without wanting to go to war.
Also,
their actions display that. I don't even have to say it. Their actions display
you want to get
that they're ready for war.
You want a reaction to your action. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, I would say, a very non-biased position as to what's going on. Like, Israel absolutely wants a war. They're in war. He convened the war cabinet like right away. So they're in war. After October 7th, Israel's been in a war state.
I'm more concerned about how this ends. And I think if you look at what's happening now, what's in the Bible, it does kind of predict what's going to come very soon, actually. So I think it's very interesting to watch what's happening now in that side of the world. But in the case of backing or supporting, everyone has their own opinions, So.
And just so you guys know, the whole pager thing, I don't know if I've mentioned it here. Guys, they had those explosives in those pagers and walkie-talkies
from day one.
For 9 years.
From day one.
For 9 fucking years, guys, they had these devices bugged with explosives. Hey, man, I think Israel has probably one of the best intelligence services in the world next to ours, by far.
Some of the best.
Some of the best, bro.
Yep.
The fact that they were able to pull that off, you got to give credit where it's due. You know, you guys know I'm not a big fan of Israel, but you know, you got to give credit where it's due. And for them to be able to pull off an operation like that took the better part of a decade to blow up pagers, flip phones, and all these other things, because Hezbollah stopped using modern devices because they didn't want to be traced and intercepted. That's the very reason they switched to these older beepers. So what Israel did was they anticipated that they would switch to these older devices and fucking put the explosives in them from inception. And then they simultaneously detonated them on 2 separate days.
They're playing chess.
Well,
not checkers.
You know, you got to remember they're cutthroat, man. They're surrounded by people that want them gone. So they're not going to play nice or fair. They're going to literally do what they got to do to survive in their eyes. That's, again, I'm giving you guys the Israeli perspective. Is they look at it like everyone wants us gone. We're fighting for our right to live. Is how they look at it. That's why they do what they do. To include, they've been caught many times spying on American citizens. Many times spying on us.